Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm making a vinyl wrap for the ever popular Libbey glass tumblers. These have been super popular to add vinyl to for quite a while now, and for some reason this is the first time I'm making them, and I don't know why it took so long because I'm totally obsessed, but I'm showing how you can make a vinyl wrap from scratch in Cricut Design Space. So first I will show you how to do that. The images that I'm using for this wrap is from Cricut Design Space. You can grab images from anywhere. I'm going to go over to images. I've already created this in Design Space, so I am just restarting it so you can see how I created it. I'm going to search for pumpkin and I'll grab the one that I found. One thing that I like about Design Space images is there's just a ton on here, so I do pay for Cricut access. So I'm going to use this one. Now I'm going to search for my leaves that I'm using. I can't find it, so I am just going to type in the code. Okay, here's one of the leaves, but I'm also using a couple others from the image set. So if you click on these three dots, you can view the image set. What's nice about these is that you can have all similar leaves. I'm going to grab this one and this one. So I have everything selected. I'll just hit add to canvas. Now I'm going to grab my guide. I grabbed a measuring tape and first measured the circumference of my Libbey glass. Then I measured the length. I'm going to go over to my shapes. I'm going to grab a square. And I'm going to make this into a guide, but first I'm going to size this. I'm going to come up here and hit unlock. With my measurements, the circumference was 9.375 and my height was 4.375. These measurements can vary a little bit, but I found this one to work for me. Now I'm going to change this to a guide. So go up to my operation and select guide. For my pumpkin, I want to figure out my sizing first. I want it to be just a little bit narrower, so I'm going to come up here and hit unlock again on my keyboard, and I am just going to bring it in a little bit and kind of shape it a little differently. Okay, that looks good like that. Now what I'm going to do is bring this inside my guide, and I'm just going to make this smaller and try to fit this in here how I want it. Okay, I think that looks like a good size. Now I'm going to have 6 pumpkins, and I also want to mention that I've already played around with this a lot and figured out how I want my design to look, so it's not always this quick and easy. I'm going to right click and send my guide to the back. I am just going to duplicate this pumpkin. Now I'm just arranging the pumpkins kind of where I want it. Now I'm going to bring my leaves in here. I'm going to bring this down here and line it up, just kind of how it fits inside the pumpkins. Now I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to bring it in between these two. And you can kind of just play around with it until you have it kind of fitting how you like it. And then this one I'll bring in between here. Now I want to add these leaves on the other side of the pumpkins, so I'm going to select this one first. I'm going to use my hotkeys on my computer, so I'll hit Command C, then I'll hit Command V to paste it, and I will bring it over here. I'm just going to have it go a different direction though, so I'll kind of turn it this way. Now I'll take this one, I'll hit Command C, or if you have a Windows, it's Control C, and then Command V to paste it. And then the last one, I'll hit Command C and Command V and bring it over here. I'm actually going to go up and flip this horizontally just to kind of make it look a little different. Now one more thing is I want the top 2 pumpkins to line up, so I'm going to select this one. I'll hit Shift on my keyboard and select this other one. It looks like this one's selected, but it's actually not. And I'm going to go up to Align to Top. Now I want this one and this one to line up. I'm going to have it aligned to the bottom because I want it to align to whichever one's lower, if that makes sense. So I am going to select align to bottom. And now it just looks a little bit more uniform like that. Now I'm going to figure out my colors. So I was playing around with the vinyl that I'm using, and I want to show you something cool that I like to do on my computer. I'm going to go over to my internet. I'm going to be using this Tech Wrap vinyl, and I wanted to play around with the colors, and a really cool way to do this is I have downloaded this color pick is what it's called. I can't remember how I did this, so I think you can just Google color pick eyedropper, and when you select on it, you can figure out the color code for whatever color it is. So I am just gonna, it's not always like perfect, but it just gives you an idea of what it's gonna look like. So I'm just gonna select on this. I will hit copy on my keyboard. Then I'll come over to Cricut, and I am gonna make the leaves that color. So I am going to select this, and I am going to go over to my color. I'll click on advanced, and I'm going to come down to this color code. I don't know if it has a specific name, but I'm going to paste that in there. And now you can see it made it the color of what vinyl I'm going to be using. And this just gives me a really good idea of how this is going to look. I'm going to change the color for one of my pumpkins. So I'll come back over here. I'll select on my pink. I'll copy it again using my hotkeys. I'll go back to Cricut, and I'm going to select on, I think I'm going to do the bottom one. This is attached right now. There's 2 layers. It won't let me go up to my color when it's attached, but I can just click on this layer and it'll work that way. So I'm going to click back on my color, and I am going to paste this. Now I'm going to do another color for my pumpkin. I'm going to do this one here. So I'm going to copy that. Then I'm going to go back to Cricut, and I am going to follow the same steps. I am going to paste it. Now this pumpkin, I want to show you, if I hit ungroup, you can see that there's this layer that sits on top of it. So I'm going to hit undo and undo again. And this one also has the same thing. If I hit ungroup, it has this black vinyl piece on top of that as well. So what I'm going to do is make all of those pieces a gold chrome vinyl. So I need to change the color to a goldish color, and I'm just going to pick a random color for that. Okay, we'll just do something like that. Now I need to fix the colors for everything, and to do that, I'm going to do color sync because it makes it so much easier. So all of the black here is going to be that gold color. So I'll bring it up to the top. And all of the layered pumpkins is also going to be gold. So I'm going to slide all this up. And this is just a lot faster than going up to this color square for every single one. Now I want to change my leaves all to green. So I'll click on my leaves and bring these down. And for the pumpkins, it's kind of hard to tell which one's which. So I'm just going to come back over here, and I am just going to grab it this way. So this one I'm going to do pink. This one is going to be that creamish color. I'm trying to just alternate it. And that's kind of how it is going to look. So I'm basically lining up my colors with my color vinyl that I'm using because it'll put it all on one mat. There's a few more things that I need to do with this, but first what I'm going to do is I am going to ungroup the pumpkins and the leaves. They're all different colors, so I can't work with them that way. So I need each layer to be separate. So I'm going to ungroup all of these, and I'll speed this part up. Also, the layers panel is basically your best friend in Cricut Design Space. It shows you what's attached, what's grouped, all of that. So it's very helpful. Now I need to attach all of the colors together. So I'm going to grab all my gold. I'll select the first layer. I'm going to hit Shift on my keyboard and I'll select all the other gold layers. Okay, as you can see in the layers panel, I have all the gold colors selected, so I'll hit attach. Now for the gold pieces, I'm going to show you another little hack. In between these leaves, this is so tiny and it is not going to cut out very well on the Cricut. Also, it's going to make it a little bit difficult to line it up perfectly. So I'm actually going to make it thicker and I am going to use the offset tool to do that. I have a really great hack for the offset tool that I don't think I've shared on my channel before. So I don't really want to make this too much bigger because it'll kind of mess up the design. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this gold down. I'm going to be changing the size of this. So what I'm going to do first is just copy the width of this so I know what size I need to bring it back down to. This will make a little bit more sense when I'm done doing this. So there is a way to make your parameters bigger for the offset tool. What you do is you make your image larger. Now I'll click on offset. I'm going to bring this down to 0. Then I'm just going to use my arrows on my keyboard to bring this up. Okay, that's all I want to do. It's barely anything, but I'm just going to hit apply. Now we have our regular layer and we have our offset layer. The offset layer is black. So I have my orange layer selected. I am just going to delete that. And now you can see that this is a little bit thicker. So if you want any lines thicker, using the offset tool is an excellent hack for that. Now I'm going to go up to my width and I'm going to hit paste and hit enter because I copied the sizing of it. So I want it to be the exact same size so it fits directly over here. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit and I want to match this up as well as I can. You can see a little bit of pink over here. I want to make sure that's perfectly lined up. So I'm going to use my arrow tool to just bring it over just a little bit. Okay, I think that looks lined up. Now what I'm going to do is change this back to that gold color. This next step you don't have to do when you're making these wraps, but because I have these gold pieces that have to fit perfectly in all of these leaves and right over the pumpkins, it makes it a little bit more confusing. If you have a more simple design, you definitely don't have to do this, but this will help make sure everything's lined up well. So what I'm going to do is use the registration line technique. I'm going to come up here and grab a shape. I'm just going to grab one of these rectangles. And I am going to make it smaller. And I'm going to make 3 of these. So I'll hit duplicate twice. I want to make sure that these are all lined up. So I'm hitting shift on my keyboard and I'm going to select all 3. I'll go to align and select align to bottom. You also can distribute horizontally. That just makes sure they're all centered. And I could also do distribute vertically, which is basically the same thing as align to bottom. Okay, so that looks great. I am going to group that together. What I'm going to be doing is layering each color together before I put it on the Libbey glass. And to help line it up, I am going to be using these. I need one for each color because each color I am going to use these rectangles to line it up. And if you've never done this before, it'll make sense when you see it in person. But I have 4 different colors. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this so I have 4 of these. Now what I'm going to do is center all of these. I'll bring it back down here. Now I'm going to grab one of these. I am going to hit shift on my keyboard and I'm going to grab this gold color. And what I'm going to do is hit attach. I just realized that I haven't attached my other colors. So that is something that you want to do. So what I'm going to do is grab all my pinks, hit shift on my keyboard, and I am going to select attach. Now I'm going to grab all my cream color pumpkins. I'm just going to do this in the layers panel. I'll hit shift on my keyboard and select those, and I'll hit attach. Hopefully this isn't confusing. I meant to attach all the colors when I attached the gold. So now I'm going to grab all of my greens and attach them. Now I'm going to grab this next one. I'll hit shift on my keyboard and I selected my green color, and I'm going to come down and hit attach. And it changed it to gray. I'd rather have it keep it at that green, so I'm going to hit undo. I'm going to change this to that green color, and now I am just going to attach it so that it'll stay that color. This one I'm going to change to pink. Then I'll hit shift in my keyboard and select my pink. Then I'll come down here and hit attach. Now I am going to grab this color, select my pumpkins, and I'll hit attach. This looks a little complicated, but when you have this set right on top, it'll make sure everything lines up how it should. If you have any questions about it, definitely let me know in the comments below. Now I'm ready to click make it. It'll bring each color onto a separate mat. So I will hit continue. It's telling me that it's going to do that cream color vinyl first, so I'm going to start with that on my mat, and I'll select vinyl for my setting. Here's the vinyl that I'm using. Like I said, it's Tech Wrap. I can leave links down below for this. I love their vinyl. It is so pretty, and it is also permanent, so it'll work well for these glasses. I add my vinyl to the mat, and then I load it into the Cricut machine and it'll cut it out. I also follow the prompts in Cricut Design Space to tell me which vinyl color is next. For the gold, it is a chrome vinyl. I am going to select holographic vinyl for my cut setting. There is a clear protective layer over the vinyl, so definitely make sure to remove that. I also cut out the length of vinyl that I need because I want to make sure that I keep that clear cover on the rest of the vinyl to protect it. So here I'm just cutting it down to the size that I need it, and I'll add it to my mat. And once again, the Cricut will cut out the design. When that's done, I'll have the Cricut cut out the last color of the vinyl. When that's done, I weed out all the excess vinyl, and another thing that I love about Tech Wrap is that it just weeds really easily. Now I'm ready to piece together all of my vinyl. I've already added my clear transfer tape on top of this cream colored vinyl. I just forgot to show it. Here I'm just pulling the vinyl onto the transfer tape. Then I grab my parchment paper, which is a complete lifesaver for this next step. I place everything down except for the registration lines onto that parchment paper, and this just makes it easier to line up those lines. So my head definitely gets in the way here in a second. It's just hard to line it up with the camera, but you want to make sure that you line all three rectangles up at the same time. If you start on, let's say, the left side and press that down, sometimes it's hard to get it straight. So I try to press all three registration lines down at the same time. Let me know if that doesn't make sense. But then I remove the parchment paper and use my squeegee tool to slowly place down the vinyl. You do want to do this slowly just to make sure that it's in the right spot. Since I'm adding all of my vinyl onto this one backing sheet of vinyl, I have to now remove the transfer paper, and it does make it a little bit harder for it to stick down onto this backing sheet, so you just have to take it slowly. Now I'm ready to add my pink vinyl. I'm using the same transfer sheet. I try to get 2 or 3 uses out of it before I get a new one. And I follow the same process here. I pick up the pink vinyl onto the transfer sheet, then I line up those registration lines. And like I was trying to say earlier, I just like to make sure that all 3 registration lines are lined up before I press it all down. It's just really important to make sure that all 3 of them line up right on top of each other. Then I remove my parchment paper and place my vinyl down onto that sheet. Here I'm removing the transfer tape again, and once again it is tricky trying to keep that vinyl down onto the backing. It just wants to pick right back up onto the transfer paper. Now I'm ready to add my last piece of vinyl. I'm saving this one for last because it sits on top of the other vinyl colors. I grabbed a new transfer sheet and place it down. Then I just pick up the vinyl on top of that. Next, I follow the same process. Also, if you want to apply the gold pumpkin and leaves onto each one separately, you can definitely do that too, and it would make it even easier to make sure that it's totally lined up. Now that I have this applied, I cut off the rectangles. Here's the Libbey glass that I'm using. It came in a set of 4. I think they're just so pretty. Also, I will have everything linked in my description box so you can see where I found all of my supplies. I'm placing rubbing alcohol onto the glass to make sure it's nice and clean before I add my vinyl. Now I just squeegee the whole design so that it'll all pick up onto my transfer sheet. This gold vinyl is seriously so pretty. I use the parchment paper again to help me apply this to the glass. I leave a little bit of the transfer tape on the edge open. With the parchment paper underneath the vinyl, I'm able to make sure I have it lined up. I actually had it too high at first, so I'm glad I'm using this. I press down that open edge of the transfer paper when I have it where I want it. Then I remove the parchment paper. I did make a little bit of a mistake with this. I kind of just set the transfer paper down, and I just wish I would have done it a little more carefully, like slowly, because it did cause some bubbles, and I'll show you in just a minute. You can even see here where the transfer tape has some bubbles in it, so I just needed to be a little bit more careful when I was placing it down. Now that I have it all placed, I remove the transfer tape. I want to mention that these are hand wash only. You don't want to put this in the dishwasher, and since it's permanent, you can get it wet. I would recommend waiting 24 hours to 48 hours before actually using it, just to give it time to cure. It might be a little hard to see, but there is some bubbles in the pumpkin, and I do have an excellent hack for this. What you do is you grab something sharp like a sewing needle, or here I'm using this sharp weeding tool. You press one little dot in the center of it. Then I use my nail to rub it down, and it actually takes away that little dot. It releases some air to be able to make it flat. It doesn't always work perfectly, but for the most part, it really helps with the bubbles. I had some bubbles in the other pumpkins also, but I just fixed that off camera. You can see that it does look better. I bought some lids and straws off of Amazon, so here is the wood lid, and it fits perfectly on top of the Libbey glass. And here's the glass straws that I bought. These add such cute touches to the jars. Here's a final look at the jar. I am totally obsessed with it. These are extremely fun to make, and I am really excited to have my coffee in these. I think I'm going to try to learn how to make a pumpkin cream cold brew. If anybody has any great recipes for that, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. I would also love it if you subscribe to my channel if you are new.